everybody. Welcome to another episode of Paranormal Addicts. We are on season 3. This is episode 20. As always, I'm your host, Kent Wilson. Tonight, we are joined by someone many of you know for his work with haunted artifacts, and he's the founder of Iron Gate, the home for haunted relics. Eric, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me. Uh,
For
yeah,
the
I
people,
appreciate it.
you're welcome. For the people who may not know you, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, that's actually I absolutely hate that question. So my name's Eric. I don't know what. So I collect haunted things. They're all throughout my house, and it just became a thing uh, during COVID, maybe a little post COVID when you couldn't go see the world, and was drawn to one item, and here we are a few items later. I'm a husband, father, and collector of haunted items.
I think that's a pretty good introduction. I'm going to start introducing myself as a husband, father, and paranormal investigator.
There you go.
I usually say paranormal researcher though, um,
Ah,
but does it really matter? I mean, a name's a name. I personally don't like the ghost hunter title, but I mean, if that's what you want to call yourself, that's fine. I don't call myself a ghost hunter because I don't have a ghost head on my wall. I'm not going out with a Echo Warren and but if that's what you're comfortable with, that's okay. Um, you know, uh, my good friend Aaron G. Thompson, he calls himself an afterlife researcher. So there's lots of names out there. So for the people who don't know, tell us about Iron Gate, how it began, what's its mission, and all that fun stuff.
so Iron Gate became or came about when I needed something to keep me busy. So we had a serious medical emergency with my wife last year in August, and I didn't know how to keep myself busy. I was just stuck in one frame of mind with no other way to get out of that um, headspace. And Rob asked me if I was interested in bringing some items up to Mid Orange and putting up a table or two. So I did. And we did 3 iterations of people just coming through. And by iteration 3, I realized that there was an actual genuine interest. Um, and I've always said that I'm not interested in the fame. So why I did this is to allow the items that are housed at this house, that's their opportunity to continue to tell their story. Because, you know, people and their stories are forgotten about when we don't talk about them. So I gave that a shot, and it seemed to work out well. You'd be surprised at how many people are actually interested in the paranormal without wanting to spend however much money it costs to go to a location, and they don't, but they're genuinely interested. So this gives me that opportunity to, let people sit with these items. Every once in a while, people will come to the house and we'll do an investigation. But one of the cool things that I think about with Iron Gate is that my items are driven by what my wife will say, yes, can come in this house. So there's nothing demonic or malicious or malevolent. Every item that's in this house is peaceful. The most activity we get is walking around the house. You can hear the footsteps. Doors will open sometimes, but no weird attacks or anything like you see in some of the movies that are out there. I don't want to say names because I don't know what happens if I do. But there's never any everything is, oh, it's super terrifying. It's a demon or whatever. And why would I want that in my house?
Yeah, so we're not dealing with Annabelle or Robert the Doorhead. We're just dealing
No, I think the one item that I don't think has an actual attachment, but I think is a Ouija board, or spirit board, whatever you want, a talking board, whatever you want to call it. When I bought it, that was in Salem a couple years ago, and I ended up getting some scratches. And then when I brought it home, I had a couple of nightmares back to back. But and then after that, there's only been a couple instances, and I've cleansed the house, but I don't believe there's actually anything attached to it. I believe it's a door. I believe the doorway is open. So if something comes through, it comes through. But yeah, there's nothing Annabelle or Robert the Doll or the Seventh Circle of Hell, whatever. Nothing like that roaming the house.
I have a couple of I don't really want to call them souvenirs, but a couple of things that I picked up from some of the many places I investigated. I have a odd attachment to bricks. So
To
I have
bricks?
to bricks. So I have like
Okay.
a brick from
Mhm.
Waverly Hills. I got a brick from the Stone Jill. Just every place I go to, they will let me have a brick. I have a brick. I'm not
That's
going to
cool,
steal
man.
it. I'm not going to steal a brick, but but
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
but yeah, if they let me have one, or let me buy one, you know,
Right.
as long as I can legally
Yep.
obtain it, I have a brick. So one of the bricks I have is interesting because uh, for the people who don't know, Mayfield was pretty well destroyed by a tornado like 6 years ago,
Oh,
and
wow.
when it came through, it uh, it was so bad afterwards that I compared it to a battlefield like
Okay.
Afghanistan. That's how bad it was. It was, it destroyed everything. It was an F4, F5
Oh,
tornado.
wow.
Yeah, it was destroyed. Uh, yeah, it destroyed everything. The city hall, the county jail, the courthouse,
Jeez.
businesses. Anyway, so one of the buildings that damaged was Whole Hotel. Whole Hotel was the oldest building in Graves County, and it was the one that was actually known to be haunted because, as we discussed off the air, Mayfield, Graves County don't like paranormal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mm-mm.
it's still one that was known for that. Well, uh, somebody tried to buy it. Somebody did buy it because they thought they would be able to get grants and stuff to repair it, but it didn't work. So it ended up getting inspected and it was beyond repair. So when they tore it down, I actually have a brick from it, and
That's awesome.
it's an interesting brick because it actually kind of with my abilities or my gifts, whatever term you want to use, I actually feel like something's lost with that brick, like
Mhm.
which makes sense because its home was destroyed. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, I've talked to a lot of people that believe that locations end up absorbing uh, energy. So, you'll see places that will sell, like you said, bricks, right? And there's like popular places that will sell like wood and stuff, and oh, it's got an attachment to it or whatnot. So it makes sense what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, I guess it's it's almost kind of like the stone tape theory, and and I've kind of developed I have developed my own theory to kind of expand on that. I call it the resonant energy theory, and because there's we can explain scientifically even a lot of activity. Like we can explain why you know why a place where there was murders, why there may still be spirits there. But
Right.
then we really can't explain why there's activity in a cemetery. We can't explain why objects have attachments. So that's kind of where my energy, that's kind of where resonant energy theory comes in. And I don't want to go in too far deep into it because this is you're my guest. I'm the host. But
No,
but
it's all
basically,
good, brother.
but yeah. So I like to use doors as my example when I'm giving somebody an example. So like if you take a doll, you know, a doll is usually a kid's best friend, especially a girl, especially if they're have especially if they're sick or lonely. You know, so the girl has that doll, and you know she exchanges all that energy with that doll, uh,
Yeah.
and all that energy's there. So uh, and then she goes on or whatever, but that energy's still there. So all that energy's transferred. So the question is, at what point does that energy become an entity of its own?
Yeah.
And the energy also, of course, is going to have the memories of the person. So you know, it's going to mimic an intelligent haunting, but really it's just energy. And same thing with like a cemetery. You know, there's no reason for spirits to be in a cemetery. Nobody lived there. Nobody died there. So there's but but people do go there to grieve. So if they go there to grieve or celebrate, you know, some people celebrate, some people grieve. You know, if you go there, enough people, you know, you grieve for Bobby, and you're like, oh, Bobby, blah blah blah. You pour in all that energy, all those memories, and then eventually you have some form of Bobby, even though it's not really Bobby. It's just energy. So that's the abridged version of resonant energy theory.
Okay.
I'm actually writing an article for it's going to be in the Hicks magazine in September. More detail of it. So I'm excited about that. It's my first published article.
Oh, that's cool, man.
So okay, back to the interview. Okay, what qualifies an object to become part of the Iron Gate collection?
So it started off, I was going to oddity shops, right? The first item that I brought into the house is a Masonic chalice known as a loving cup. Uh, I saw it and I was just drawn to it. And again, this was like post COVID. Um, and again, a lot of what I bring in, I get my wife to say yay or nay to, because it's our house. So I want to make sure that whoever's here, well, that resides here, is comfortable with it. So I showed her, and I was like, "What are your thoughts?" And she asked me if I was serious about wanting to bring a haunted object into the house, and I was like, "Yeah, why not? I mean, I go places. What's the big deal?" So we had an agreement. So that was the item that came in first. Um, it's kind of like fishing for me. Um, Investigating or ghost hunting, whatever you want to call it, whatever verbiage the person wants to use, but it's very much like fishing, right? You never know. You toss every idea out there and I don't know, try and get some sort of response. So I did the same thing at the house. Put the item on a table, and I had a spirit box, and I was asking questions, and it was just frequency hopping. And I was like, okay, I'm going to ask one more question. If you'll answer it, I'll leave you alone. So again, the spirit box is frequency hopping. And I was like, is there really a spirit attached to this? And stopped frequency hopping, and this deep male voice, yes. And the box turned off. And so, I think we've all been through this where the TV remote dies. So the first thing we do is we rotate the batteries around. Then we rotate one battery, and then we rotate the other battery. Then we go get two new batteries, and we try one new, one old, so on and so forth. Till the remote, and you're like, yeah, it's just the batteries. So that's what I tried with the spirit box, and it never worked again. And I was sold. I was like, oh my gosh. And 4 or 5 years later, here we are. I've got 2 dolls beside me here. Equipment for Iron Gate, because right now I'm in the basement, because that's where I've been relegated to with all my stuff. But on the main floor, there is some dolls, a Ouija board, some Masonic items, a couple, like one top hat, one shaving mirror. And then we have a casket with a dress in it from a victim. And then in the spare bedroom is like all the like the majority of the dolls. But all of that's going to be moved here sometime late next month because our son is stepping out into adulthood, and he's getting his own place. So I told him, I was like, yeah, your room is going to be my haunted man cave. And so everything that's in the basement, minus like all the tables and stuff that I'll be using for conventions and things of that nature. The haunted items down here, a couple shelves, then all the items in the parlor, and then all the dolls in the guest bedroom will be moved into that one room. And then I have some ideas about what I plan to do with that. So it should be good.
So
but,
do you?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you believe a haunted object has to have a tragic history to be considered haunted, or can ordinary objects become associated with extraordinary experiences?
So that's where I still wonder, but I don't think there has to be tragedy, right? Because I do have some objects that have a tragic history. I have some that I think, you were talking earlier about the dolls and the girl and all the emotion and feeling that's put into it. I have some items that I think there is an emotional attachment to, the spirit's emotionally attached to it because of its significance, right? Whether it's somebody, I have some masks from a gentleman that got into African artwork and Native American art. I believe he's attached to those. I have, the dress from a person that was killed. So I believe if there is an emotional attachment to it, whether good or bad, something could attach to the object, right?
Yeah.
You hear about jewelry, so like my wedding ring. I told my wife, I was like, you're never going to get rid of me if I go first. So, I don't think it just has to be tragedy that can get an attachment.
I mean, I agree with that. I mean, that's kind of why I asked the question. Yeah, I mean, so we was talking about Bishop Long earlier. I was reviewing some stuff earlier last week and rereading his book, and he has a theory that I had never really heard from anybody else before, trying to explain why ghosts don't cross over. And
Right.
his theory is because we have free will after we die, just like we have free will when we're alive. So I don't think we're going to actually know the answers until we're on that side. But it's fun to try to find them.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's the cool thing about I use the term loosely, the community, because everybody has a thought on it, and which is cool. But I don't think we'll ever truly know. Like I'll never truly know unless I'm in that situation. But I've already told my wife, I was like, if I go first, I'm going to haunt the ever living hell out. Yeah. She's like, great. I was like, yep. So, yeah.
I tell everybody that when I pass away, I want K2 meters handed out during the visitation, and then my son who's on my team, he's my tech guy. He's my equipment guy. He's going to take my phone and text everybody and say thanks for coming.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So.
So yeah, yeah. I got an interesting. Not interesting. I got a funny story. Not funny, haha. Funny, interesting about a door with attachments. A haunted door, if you want to use that term. There's a place in Poplar Bluff, Missouri. If you know where Poplar Bluff, Missouri is, when I started investigating it 4 years ago. When I started investigating it, nothing was known about it except for it had a lot of activity. I mean, so much activity that the people that was doing the renovations quit.
Oh wow! Okay.
And but nobody knew why. Nobody knew the history. So with this other team that I'm not going to mention because I no longer consider them a reputable team for this and many reasons, including that they're banned for locations
Oh,
and for provoking and other stuff. But anyway, they got involved with this location. This location is called the Brooks Estate. I'm real close with the owners, Crystal, and so so they when they got involved with the Brooks Estate, they tried to just take over everything. They tried to take over the website. They tried to take over everything. And
oh wow.
well, then they decided it'd be a good idea to travel to New York State and and relocate a haunted doll to a location that's already violently haunted.
Okay.
So I was like, that is the most irresponsible, one of the most irresponsible things I've ever heard in my life. So,
Yeah.
so the doll is still there. The doll's name is Baby. The name of the location is the Brooks Estate. I actually call it the best kept secret in the haunted heartland is what I call it. Now we know a little bit more about history. We know that there's 13 deaths
Oh wow.
tied to the location for various reasons. Um, we know that the one man was abusive, and the one spirit's a boy, and then every once in a while you get the abusive father
Oh,
in the conversation too. But the abusive father does not like other men. So like my son is on my team, and he started investigating me when he was 16. Do I agree with that necessarily? But it's my son. I know whether he's ready or not. So when he was 16, he was my videographer. Really, is what he was. But so he got violently pushed by the spirit up there, and then when I came up there, he was treated like a coward. And so that's just kind of history of it. So they bring Baby to this already active location. So I'm like, why would you do that? So yeah, I actually did a solo session with Baby because the rest of my team was too scared to do it. So I did a solo. I'm just telling you what it is. So I did a solo session, and that's the only time I ever had my REM pod and my footstep meter go off at the same time. And
oh geez.
and yeah, and and then on my I use a Paratech VM5 because I don't like Obelisk, so I use my Paratech, and on the Paratech and the Spirit Box both, I got I'm behind you, and then I snap the picture and you see a apparition standing behind me.
Oh geez, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's cool, but why would you do that? Is that not irresponsible?
Yeah, I mean, so I think there needs, I would never just like show up with items and be like, "Hey, I've relocated them." That's a conversation to have with whoever manages the location or whatnot. You know, like I said, for item, well, I didn't say a lot of what comes here is discussed with my wife first, right? There is just no, hey, something's here or something new is here. So yeah, that's irresponsible for that team to do that.
I get that about asking your wife permission. When I got back into the field after my brain and spine surgery, one of the first people I told was Gavin Kelly because we're both from Paducah, so we go back a long time. And Gavin's exact words was, "It's about damn time." Well, my wife's like, "I know you're going to go back to doing it," and she's like, "There's one rule: you can't bring anything home."
Yeah.
I'm like,
I came home from a place one night. Had used the Ouija board that's here. If I talk about it in depth over a period of time, things will start to happen. And then if I take it and I use it somewhere, things will happen here. And that's the only time my wife was like, "You need to clean the house. You need to cleanse it." Is because I went and used the Ouija board somewhere. But yeah, the rule of don't bring anything home now doesn't really exist here. So,
well, she was talking more like attachments, not necessarily objects. She knows I'm going to bring. She knows I'm bringing my bricks home, but
right.
she's like, you can't bring home spirits. I'm like, well, I'm like, well, that's kind of my plan. That's why I do a prayer detachment before I leave any location. You know, so yeah, because the spirit's place is not with me; it's somewhere else. Um, my job is I'm just trying to find out this story, figure out why they're still here.
Yep, that was my was all I ever wanted to do was just go and find ghosts, right? From yeah, I don't know, probably 10, 12 years ago, maybe 15, I don't know. Um, Probably about 12. It was just to go find ghosts and see, because I mean, like, I like fishing, and I think of investigating as fishing because if you think about it, we're literally going to, I don't know, we'll say a dark room and sitting there and then asking questions and saying, please let me know if you're here.
And
The same
hopefully
as
you get a bite.
exactly. It's the same as casting a line out into the water and you're like, all right, come on, something bite.
Yeah,
So,
I use that example all the time. Like
yeah.
with my team, we actually do orientations, and that's part of my orientation. I'm like, this is not like you see on TV. There's some activity every minute. I was like, it's more like fishing where you can spend all day and not get anything. But when you do get a bite, it makes it all worthwhile.
Oh yeah. So you mentioned that, right? We're talking about this whole fishing thing and how you tell people that as well. Recently, I had a friend of mine. He brought his son, and then Empty Casket Paranormal came here because I bought a table. And prior to them all showing up, my wife and I and my friend and his son all went out to dinner, and his son was interested in the paranormal and had been watching the YouTube shows. And I asked him who he'd been watching, and he had told me, and I said, all right. I said, so if you're coming to the house, I need you to understand that paranormal investigating is not what you see on YouTube or on the TV shows. I said, because it's not hours upon hours of just nonstop activity. And so they showed up, and it was a great night. He wanted to come back, but we didn't have a chance to. But yeah, I think it's important for people to know that like there's no 1 hour of just nonstop activity like you see on a TV show or whatnot. So I try to preface that before I ever bring items out or introduce people to, you know, paranormal investigating.
Yeah, I tell people I'm a paranormal investigator, not a paranormal entertainer.
It's true, man. So, but yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, Ken 10, our big thing right now, these are our new stickers. You can't really see them. But our big thing is we preach investigate responsibly. That doesn't mean that there's rules to investigating, but that does mean that there should be some kind of moral compass. You know, could I fake stuff? Yes. Could I scream demon every 5 minutes? Could I provoke? But should I? That's investigate responsibly.
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So during that COVID era, well, no, lost my train of thought. Shucks. All right, moving on.
So, okay. So, have you changed your what? No, what's something you thought you understood when you began investigating that you've learned is force with your experience?
Um, when I first started, uh, chasing that high, like got to have something happen, got to have something happen. And over time, I've realized that that's just something that you can't force. I'm still learning a lot, right? Like, because um, I would love to know what happens in the afterlife, right? Everybody has their thoughts, but I'm still learning. Uh, Not everything that everybody says is haunted, I believe is haunted. Um, Trying to think of anything that the big one would be that you just can't force. activity.
So what's something that you thought was not true that you've learned is true?
Um, that spirits can move from place to place, right? Because I think there's things that come into this house that don't reside here, you know. Um, yeah, I didn't used to believe. I used to only believe that like this mouse, it's haunted, so it can't move, right? Whatever's attached to it has to stay there. But I'm starting to see that that's not always the case, right? Because there's things that happen in the house that have never happened before, and it's not new items. So it's like, where did that come from? So yeah, I used to only believe that whatever was there was there. So if there was a tragedy that struck in this house, and there's the spirit of that person, you know, if they didn't cross over, they were trapped here. But I don't think that's really the case, because I've had some dreams where people that I didn't know showed up in my dream and were talking to me, and doing some research found out that there might have been some sort of interaction with that, my family interacting with that person's family, you know, a couple hundred years ago. So
Dreams are very important. That's where my gifts first began, was more dreams. I would have dreams, and then like sometimes I'd forget about them, and then years later, everything started happening. And I was like, this is my dream. So yeah,
Yep.
dreams are very important. So you want to see my bricks? Show my bricks.
That's cool. That's so cool. Now, do you know them by like each location? Like if you just looked at the brick,
Yep.
or do you have them labeled somewhere?
I have them labeled, but I can identify them by looks.
Okay. That's really cool. I think we actually have a brick in our house from a location that my wife and I toured, and it's extremely haunted. So yeah, that's something.
I will bring you if you want it. At Rock Island, I'll bring you a brick from Waverly Hills.
I'll never turn it down, my friend. It'll go right into my haunted man cave.
Yeah, I actually have two from Waverly because I've been there multiple times. So, it's at least by reputation one of the most haunted places in America.
Right.
So that would be a good addition to your
I'll
collection.
never turn in, like, I don't, so as long as it's not like, hey, there's something negative attached to it. That's because it goes, everything. So a lot of the things that are in the house, interact with my wife more than they interact with me. She's more sensitive than I am. Like she can feel energy shifts and things of that nature. And don't ever tell her I said that if you meet her, because she'll be like, you're not supposed to talk about me. I digress. But like I came home and yesterday, and she's like, yeah, there's been something walking around and knocking in the kitchen, bothering her and the dog. But so as it relates to bringing stuff home, I'll bring anything. Like you'd be like, here you go. But if you're like, hey, it had 7 heads and some bat wings, I'll be like, yeah, we can't take that. So
no Black Mara death or anything.
Man. If it were my house and, it was just me and the dog, that would be one thing. But, I got to make sure the wife stays happy.
So, I went through the Warren Museum last year when it was traveling, and that was kind of an interesting thing because I almost didn't go because of Dan Riviera passing.
Right.
Me and Dan were friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that I never met the man in person.
Okay.
So people are like, how can he be your friend? I'm like, I talk to him every week on the phone. I'm like, and we didn't always talk about paranormal. Sometimes we talked about classic horrors. Sometimes we just talked about being Army veterans. Sometimes
Mhm.
we just talk about life. Last time I talked to him was about a week and a half about 10 days before he passed away. I was actually supposed to be grocery shopping. Well, I was grocery shopping with my wife, who's in Ruler. And instead of shopping, I was on the phone with Dan for an hour and a half. And
Yeah.
my wife didn't like that too much, but that's
Oh, yeah.
okay. But so when I say Dan was my friend, Dan was my friend. He was also my first guest of season 2 of the podcast. So
Oh,
they will
that's cool.
always be my favorite episode, always. Um, but so I was at Rock Island last year, and I I'm good friends with Wade Kirby and the other ones too. But me and Dan had a special relationship, so I almost didn't go because it was supposed to be me and Dan. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I actually asked Rob. I was like, Rob, should I go? He's like, are you going to pay $5,000 to go to the museum? I'm like, no. He's like, then you need to go. So I went, and I mean, it was interesting. You know, Father Bob was there, and Wayne was there, and and Ryan, and most of the stuff had a protective barrier around it. The one thing that surprised me though was the Conjuring mirror. The one
Mhm.
from the movie that just came out. It's just sitting on the floor. You know, I mean, it still had like the barrier in front of it, but
Right.
but it didn't have like most of the things were like in case protective
Mhm.
cases. Yeah, it's just sitting on the floor. I'm like, okay, but yeah, so yeah, so so I look forward to visiting with you and seeing some of your stuff this year. But okay, so next question is my word. I have a word that I've kind of, it's my word, parapop culture. Do you understand what parapop culture means, or do I need to explain
I think I understand.
it? Okay.
It's paranormal and pop culture.
Yeah.
Smash those together. I think I got it.
Yep. Yep. So that leads me to my next question. Uh, what, how do you feel parapop culture has affected the field, both positively
Uh,
and negatively?
oh man. So okay. Oh, that's a good one. I think it's good. Well, so in the early year 2000s, I got real like there's a show out. It was really cool back in the day. I don't watch any TV shows anymore, paranormal shows, but that really got me hooked. I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. If you look up 2008 era, I believe is when this show came out. Most people don't like that individual. Has a museum out in Nevada. Um, I was like, man, that's amazing, right? And a lot of people got hooked on the paranormal. And then I think we hit the apex a few years ago. But I think pop culture made it popular. Um, but then it got inundated. You've got the people thinking that they watch a 1 hour TV show. So that's what the paranormal is when they go to a location. So I think that's the downside because we're not showing the truth. So we as people that do this, for more than just a cheap thrill, or beers out with the friends and then going to a place, but people that actually truly enjoy doing this, we're now having to educate people on what you saw on TV is partially true. It took more than 3, 5, 6 hours at a location for them to get 1 hour. So I think that really hurt us, or hurt what people think about as the paranormal. And I also think with the pop culture, because nobody wants to see the true paranormal of not everything is a demon. I think that really hurt us because they know saying the word demon or, oh my God, I think it's trying to hurt us or something like any of that. I think brings a negative light or brought a negative light because, you were talking about where you're at and somebody said that they hope you don't buy they hope people don't buy tickets to your expo and whatnot that we were talking about prior to the podcast. I think that paints a negative light, and people see that kind of stuff and they automatically think that's what the paranormal is it's just summoning demons and crap like that. I rambled a lot.
So I pretty well agree with all that. So I always say the positive is it's opened up communication. We can now talk about being a paranormal investigator. Like we talked about before the camera rolled, a little bit on camera. Growing up, if when people found out I was a paranormal investigator, I got charmed and judged. Now I'll be at Walmart and they'll see my Ken 10 paranormal shirt or my Waverly Hills shirt or my whatever shirt, and they'll be like, "Oh, you mean like ghost hunters?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, and then they're like, "My grandmother's house." I'm telling you, I'm
Oh
like, yeah. So that's the positive. The negative is exactly what you said. There's so much fake and not necessarily even fake, but exaggerated out there. You know, even ghost hunters. Most people I think would say for the first few seasons, Ghost Hunters was pretty good. Grant and Jason and all that. I mean, even Jason talks about around season 4 that they started planning stuff because the producers wanted them to, and and that's kind of where Grant left. And so and then you get like the YouTubers, like the little duo that runs around,
Mm-hmm.
The Spice Girls on the paranormal field, as I call them. Um, everything's everything's a demon, and the oh no.
It's true.
I try to like everybody and everybody in the field, but I went to I made the mistake of going to one of their groups, one of the chat groups, Facebook groups one time, and it's like Beatlemania. All the comments, there's nothing about paranormal investigating. It's all these girls talk about how hot they are and which one they'd want to sleep with. I'm like, and and that still didn't bother me until 2024. I went to investigate locations that I had investigated before. That I have good friends, I have good relationships with the owners, and I consider them friends. Well, I went to these locations, and they're big locations, and they now have a rule that's known as the Sam and Kobe rule. You can no longer go live on location, and you can no longer release a video until it's approved by the location.
Yep.
And it's because they run around and scream everything's a demon, and the locations are like, we don't have any demons here. We don't want that tied to us. And I'm not talking about like a house down the street. I'm talking about South Pittsburgh Hospital. I'm talking about Harriman Hospital. I'm talking about Brushy Mountain, big locations. So that's when I have a problem. When you make me have a problem. Until then, if you want to make money, make money. But just know you're not a paranormal investigator. You're a paranormal celebrity. That's all.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, so I was talking about my friend and his son came over after the investigation was over. I talked to my buddy, a week or so later, and he was like, man, my son was terrified when he showed up. He's like, he was scared. He's like, but man, after he left, he wants to come back to your house really, really bad. And I was going to, like I said, I was trying to get him back here, but this all stems from what people are digesting through TV and social media is that there's not for every one peaceful spirit, there's 7 demons and, 12 spirits of serial killers. That's what everybody thinks of because, again, nobody wants to see what a peaceful environment looks like. Nobody would, if I had a YouTube channel of Iron Gate, right? And I don't claim that there's any devils, demons, or whatever's, I'm going to get like 3 views because people want to watch oh my God, this was the most haunted place I've ever been. Or I saw the devil or any of that. So, and this is what we're dealing. This is the aftermath. We, like I said, I think we hit that apex, and we crested with paranormal TV, because it got inundated with TV shows and the YouTube channels and the TikToks. And people were just kind of like, yeah, I'm burnt out because every TV show is nothing but, I think I just got attacked by Jeffrey Dahmer's spirit. And it's like, man, come on now. Just stop.
Yeah,
So, and that's why I don't watch shows anymore, because that's all it is.
the point that I decided it was just no longer salvageable was right after Ozzy Osbourne died. The next day, there was a guy that was like,
Oh
"Oh,"
yeah.
I was like, what the?
Yep.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, whatever. So, I don't write shows anymore either. I was a fan of Ghost Brothers for a little while,
Mm-hmm.
because I like their charisma, and I liked how they worked
Yeah.
and and plus it was real. I mean, they had day jobs and then they investigated. But what made me not a fan or not watch it anymore? I won't say I'm not a fan. I still think they're good guys. I talk to them. I'm trying to get them on the podcast next season. Uh, but uh, but what made me stop watching the show, and I know it's probably more the producers than it was them, is that they were on this one location and they was using their phone. And I'm not anti-phone apps, so don't jump on me. Uh, I understand phones nowadays are basically mini computers.
Yeah.
But so if it's programmed right, maybe. But there's some things a phone can never do. Okay, uh, a phone can never be an EMF reader. Never. Why? Because it puts off too much EMF
Yeah.
on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever taken your phone and put it next to a K2 meter?
Oh yeah.
So a phone cannot be it cannot be an EMF reader. Other stuff we'll tackle that later, but it cannot be. So they're at this location and they're using the phone. They got their phone and they're like using it as an EMF reader, and which was bad enough. But I was just like, whatever. But then the statement they made was, "This is the best EMF reader you can get." I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
man.
That's got to be paid for advertisement right there.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, psh. So yeah. So yeah. So next question is, what message would you give someone who's just starting out in the field?
Message I would give somebody that's just starting out. Get out there with an open mind and have fun. Right? I said I always just wanted to go find ghosts, right? Um, I don't, this is not my day job. I just enjoy it. And I think that's what we need to get back to, is just go out, have fun, go with an open mind. That I think that's probably it. Go have fun and have an open mind. And not everything is a demon. That's important. Yeah. Not everything is a demon. I promise you.
I tell people all the time, because I've been doing this a little while, and I have people ask me all the time, what's the difference now and when I first started in the field? Uh, back when I came over on the Mayflower, and there's a lot of differences. First of all, especially growing up where I grew up, it was hard to find somebody to help you understand. We didn't have ghost hunters, ghost adventurers, paranormal estates, ghost law, ghost brothers, ghost air conditioning. We didn't have any of that. We had Robert Stack one Friday a month on Unsolved Mysteries. He did the Unexplained. We had that.
Oh man, I missed that.
I love Robert Stack. And then we had the library. That's what I had. I had the library. So 12-year-old Kent checked out every book he could on ghosts, parapsychology, anything. I read every book by Ed Warren. I read everything. And matter of fact, I got called down to the office and because they were like, should we be concerned that you're checking out these books? So that's what we
Yeah.
have. So that's one big difference. The other difference is back then the paranormal field was actually a community. We were a family. We worked together to try to find that breakthrough evidence. We helped each other, and you don't have that anymore. Why? Because ego, I guess.
Everybody's trying to get a paycheck, brother.
Yeah, that's what it is. And uh, you know, so yeah, so I like that. Yeah. So this is my favorite round. It's the speed round. Are you ready? So these are just 10 questions. Uh, some of them may be relevant. Some of them may not be relevant. Some of them are just fun. Some of them
Okay.
are actual. Some of them are actual relevant questions. Are you ready? So first thing that pops in your mind, you go to investigation snack.
Cherry Coke Zero and Pull and Pill Twizzlers. If I can't find Pull and Pill Twizzlers, it is peanut butter Oreos.
Respect. Haunted doors. Haunted doors. Fact or fiction?
Fact.
Favorite paranormal show?
Ghost Brothers.
Um, coffee or energy drink?
Both.
If you could investigate with anyone, living or deceased, who would it be?
Anyone living or deceased. I know this is probably going to catch all kinds of flack, but Ed and Lorraine Warren. I would love just to meet them.
I actually have a letter from Ed. Like I said, when I was getting into this in 1986, yes, I am that old, at 12 years old. In 1986, I didn't have anybody in Paducah, Kentucky to help me. So I would write letters to Ed. And he actually returned my letters.
Oh, that's cool.
And I actually have one that is basically just an encouraging letter. Keep doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, this is my number.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll call. So I have that letter. So I think for some reason now, I don't know if it's the rock culture or what. Some people have turned against Ed and Lorraine Warren. And what people have to realize is when they were doing that, they were trying to figure it out too. They didn't have what we had now. So
Right.
yeah. So yeah, mine would be the same thing, by the way. Ouija board, game, tool, or portal?
I think if used, it could be a portal. I mean, especially with whatever's in. Yeah, I'd say it could be a portal. Yeah.
Bucket list location.
What is it? The Ram's Head Inn? The Ram's Head Inn in England, I think is what it's called. Yeah. That place is wicked.
Demons, fact or fiction?
I don't know. I've never experienced one, so I don't know. I don't know.
I did a really interesting post. If you go to my personal Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
that's not open to everybody out there. That's just open to my friends.
Right.
But if you go to my personal Facebook page, I actually posted something last week because I study demonology is a passion of mine. Not that I believe everything's a demon. Less than 1% are demonic, but I enjoy the study of it, and I enjoy the fact that I don't enjoy the fact that I like arguing. I like educating. That's a better word. I like educating people to try to say that demons are just a Christian invented thing. So
Right.
I actually posted I actually made the image too. But I go back all the way to the Aztec and Native American
Oh, wow. Okay.
and talk about all the. I'll actually send it to you when we get off here so you can see it. That way you don't have to scroll through all my nonsense and find it. And so yeah, but because I'm actually, you can't tell it because I'm not that right now, but I'm actually 1/8 Cherokee.
Okay.
And 1/16 Choctaw.
Oh,
So I'm kind of like Tim McGraw. I'm Indian outlaw.
Oh, there it is.
And so yeah, and so a evil malicious spirit has existed in culture all the way back to at least Egyptian Aztec era, and demons. The people on YouTube that run around and say everything's a demon, if they ever actually ran into one, they would piss their pants.
Right.
So I think maybe, but not the way we see it in pure pop culture.
Right.
Protection or no protection.
Sorry, that just the way you asked that made me laugh. I'm not too worried about it, so I don't worry about it. So, but let me caveat that with, I won't go in and bless any of that. But if it's offered, I don't tell. Oh no, don't do that. So does it make sense?
Yep, I follow you.
Okay.
What is your playlist on your way to an investigation?
I'm eclectic, man. So I have Sirius XM and anything from 80s to death metal, 80s rock, 90s rock, death metal. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for. So
I'm with you on that. The only song I guarantee you that's going to be on my playlist is the only album, I guess. Beastie Boys' "License to Ill" is going to be there. Other than that, it's just whatever I'm in the mood for. Yep. But Paul Revere, "Fight for Your Right," Brass Monkey, it's going to be on there. Awesome. So we're almost out of time. That's good because I'm almost done. So Rhett's next for Iron Gate.
So after this, I'm just kind of chilling, man. October is going to be busy. I have Rock Island. 2 weekends after Rock Island is Marked in Darkness. That's an event. I believe it's going to be in Scranton, PA. And then at the end of October is Hexenfest, and that's in PA. That's in Western PA. That's really about it, man. Right now, I'm trying to get everything set up once my son moves out and moves into his own home or into his townhouse. I'm going to transition everything up, all my items to that into that room, and then really start plugging away and seeing what I can do with this. But yeah, that's October is going to be busy.
Yeah, my busy schedule starts last weekend of August. Last weekend. So for the people who don't know out there, I'm actually recovering from knee surgery right now. So I've actually been on hiatus for a while, which is not good because when I'm on hiatus, I update paranormal equipment. So I've just been buying stuff and booking locations, and it's not a good thing. So last weekend of August, I'm at Smoky Mountain Terror.
Okay.
And then after that, I'm investigating Jonesville Rest Home, and then I'm investigating. I went blank, and then in September, I have my expo, and then I have Rock Island, and then in October, I'm doing a return trip to the Monroe House.
Okay.
And then I doing something there, and then in November, I'm doing an investigation with my team, and then I'm doing an investigation outside my team. I'm going to hospital on College Hill.
Okay.
And on Friday, and then on Saturday, I'm doing the Hinsdale House.
Oh gosh, man!
Don't ask me. I'm not driving. I'm just going. And there's going to be a lot of Ghost energy drink there, but I'm a big fan of the 7-Up flavor because it actually tastes like 7-Up. But in September, they're actually coming out with a Yoo-Hoo flavor.
Oh, dude, I've never had Ghost energy. Usually I've been a White Monster energy drink guy.
So yeah, I like the White Monster, and I like the Rockstar Punch. The fruit punch one. Mm-hmm. And then I like the 7-Up Ghost because it tastes like 7-Up. And then but I mean, come on, when they come out with the Yoo-Hoo flavor, got to try it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then in December, I'm actually going back to the Brooks Estate, the one that we mentioned earlier. I'm going back there in December, and then in January for my annual birthday investigation. I'm doing Randolph County Asylum,
Dude, that's awesome.
and then yeah, I usually don't investigate in November or December, but this year since I lost 3 months due to my knee injury, I'm
Make
making
up
up
for
for
it.
it.
You got to
So
make up for it.
and I wish you wasn't so far away from me because I would invite you to be part of my expo next year because we're going big next year. But
Well, we can talk about it, man. It just depends. Like, so I know we got to roll here in a second. Yeah, just let's talk about it.
all right, we'll talk about it. We still got. I need to get through this year first. So October 1st that's what I keep telling about it. That's even what I told the tourism committee today. October 1st, we'll revisit everything. All right. So Eric, thank you for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you taking time to share your experiences and give us a closer look at Iron Gate, the home for haunted relics. Thank you everybody for joining us for another episode of Paranormal Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, like, follow, and subscribe and share. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere you podcast tomorrow. My book, Don't Buy Generic Batteries, It's Probably Not a Demon, is available now on Amazon. If you're interested in having me at your event, conference, expo, or podcast, contact Methodological Management. AJ is my manager. Join us next week on the 23rd as we welcome Bishop James Long to the podcast. Until next time, live paranormal.